Okay. Hi, everyone. I wanted to bring a couple of advocates here so that you would have some more insight into how petitioners feel when they're coming to court and applying for these orders. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves first. Jessica, how about you start?
Hi, my name is Jessica Beckel, and I'm one of the victim advocates with Emerge Center for Domestic Violence, and I'm also one of the advocates in Judge Million's domestic violence court.
And
Hi,
Jess.
I'm Jess Glass Walsh. I work at the University of Arizona in Survivor Advocacy Program, and I work as the lead advocate.
Okay. Do you do a lot of domestic violence, Jess, or do you do other stuff too?
Do everything, all forms of interpersonal violence.
Okay, because I know that my experiences with you have been like with sexual assault cases. A lot of that happens right at the university.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that is something that frequently impacts our students, and they oftentimes seek orders of protections rather than initially reporting to police as a way of, creating a barrier between them and their perpetrator.
okay. And we kind of talked about questions, but now I'm thinking of all these different ones when I think about that because it's two really different, I think, different kinds of cases that are coming in front of us where that you guys see, right? So, but this can be something that I think you both can answer. And is can you? And I know you can't say they all feel this or they all feel that, but give me some ideas about how the plaintiffs that come to court and seek protection orders, how are they feeling when they get to the judges that have to talk to them? Jessica, I'll let you go first.
Sure. I think most of the time when petitioners are coming to court, they really feel conflicted about what they're doing. A lot of them have shared that, they want to be safe, but they also wish that they didn't have to take this step in order to do so. A lot of the times when they're coming to get these orders of protection or injunctions, this is their last resort. They've tried everything else. They're usually pretty scared coming in. They don't really know what's going to happen. Is the judge going to grant this? Is this person going to get in trouble? Am I going to get in trouble? So a lot of times they're just very conflicted when they have to come into this space.
Okay. And Jess, do you have stuff to add to that?
Yeah. I would definitely echo feeling conflicted, especially with their intimate partner violence situations. They care about this person, they don't want to get them in trouble. And sometimes that's a good reason why our students and our staff and faculty seek an order of protection instead of reporting to police because it's non-consequential as long as the person follows the order pretty much. But our students definitely feel scared. This is the first time for most of them ever interacting in a courthouse. A lot of them, the questions that they are concerned about, they're like, what do I even wear? And so they have a lot of nervousness. It's also completely foreign, like the language that is used within the courthouse. And so a lot of them are not quite sure what to ask for. They know what they want, but they don't know how to ask it. And so having our advocates present with our students, especially our younger students, can be really helpful because we have the legal jargon to be able to communicate what they're looking for.
That's really great. Yeah, I remember Jessica telling me that, she tells the victims in my courtroom, like, oh, that's what a pretrial means. That's why we're just doing nothing today and setting a new date. And so I think we tend to forget about that. Do you think that they tell us everything on these protection orders? I mean, and maybe I should say, I think we all know they don't, but what are some of the reasons that they might? We've been dealing with the gun issue, a lot. So tell me, Jessica, what are the reasons that we may not hear everything?
Sure, absolutely. I think specifically when individuals aren't working with like attorneys or having advocates there to help them fill out their petitions and come speak to a judge, I think a lot of the times they purposely are vague in their petitions. Once again, they don't know, well, a lot of them don't understand that if they fill out this petition, that it's not going to result in like a criminal case or someone getting arrested, or they might be afraid that that might happen. I know that a lot of them are also scared that what they put in this petition, that their perpetrator is going to see this and they don't know how they're going to respond. So that could be a big reason why they might minimize what they're filling out for fear of how they might respond. Um, So I think that that's a big piece of it. And then there's also the piece that a lot of them just don't understand that you're allowed to go back, up to a year and report anything, whether there's been a police report, whether there's been criminal charges or not. I've had many individuals say that they thought that those are the only things they could put on these orders. And then later learned that they could actually report things that they may not have, a report or some physical evidence for. So those are just some of the reasons why I think there's a broad range of reasons why someone may not be completely forthcoming with the judge or the legal system.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Jess? You think of anything?
Yeah. I definitely think that our students leave things out for different reasons. One of the reasons that comes up sometimes is they may be engaging with law enforcement, but the perpetrator hasn't been made aware of that yet. And so they're worried about them having access to all the information, them being interviewed by a detective, and already knowing what to say. Another thing that comes up for students is oftentimes these issues come up maybe in their first sexual experiences or their first relationships. And so they don't have the language to really communicate and understand, oh, that was also abusive. And so their normal might be someone blowing up their phone and calling them 30 times and going to their door. And so they in their head might think, okay, well, that's what a partner does. That's not abuse.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I want to ask just this because this has come up between you and me before. You've told me about experiences that some of your clients have had. About language that maybe we as judges were concerned for them, but it comes off as like maybe patronizing or that we're blaming them. What kind of things, that I try
Yeah.
really hard, but like even that question, did you call the police? That sounds like you're blaming them because a lot of times they didn't, right? So that kind of thing. What do you have to add to that, Jess?
Yeah, we try to prepare them as much as possible that you all are doing your best to make sure that you have as much information as possible. And so we talk about the did you call the police question just as a way for you all to have awareness about what's going on. I think some things that our students have experienced were comments like, I hope you keep yourself safe. That has rubbed our students the wrong way because they don't have a lot of control over their own safety and they're just doing their best. I think too, a lot of our survivors or victims are minimizing what happened to them. They're in a space where they're like, I don't fall in that category. I don't deserve to be there. And so being able to recognize them as the victim in this complaint can be quite helpful. It honors what happens to them. And I know a lot of our students feel validation knowing that these judges are approving their orders.
Yeah. And what have judges done, Jessica, with some of the people that you've worked with that made them feel validated, made them feel like they were welcome to come back to the courthouse?
Yes. Kind of what Jessa just stated about some of the questions. I know like they're trying when they say like, I'm really scared for you. But I think it's been good when they've acknowledged that like this must have been very hard for you to come in here today. And thank you for coming and sharing your story with me. Just having that is just enough to know like, okay, this person actually heard what I had to say. And letting them know like giving information is power. And so letting that person know that, if down the road you need to come back and get another one or you need to modify this, you have that ability to do that. Giving them resources, saying, you've shared a lot of some scary things, some very traumatic things with me. Are you connected to anyone? Are you getting support with this? Do you have other support systems in your life that can help you safety plan? Just having those personal conversations like that, rather than just saying, yep, here's your order, bye, treating them like a number. I think that's really made them individuals feel more comfortable with the judges when they're getting these orders.
Great, thanks.
I
Yeah.
think one thing too, that I notice a lot is any positive interaction that they have with the criminal justice system makes them far more likely to actually consider reporting. And so having a positively impactful situation with a judge makes them feel safe, makes them feel like, okay, maybe I could report this. Maybe this isn't going to be so bad, or they realize, I can do this. I can actually handle it and go through it. And so we want our survivors and our victims to feel as safe as possible, engaging in reporting options should they choose to do so. And we see a lot of cases, especially on campus, where it's the same perpetrator every time for different folks. And so, as a human who doesn't want these people to continue to harm people, like, a part of me is like, oh my gosh, can we please put them in the system and get them away from this campus?
Yeah, great. Those are really good comments to help us, remember the backstory, because what we see so much is not all of that. We see a little piece of time. So, all right, we'll be back for our next session on contested hearings. Thanks, you all.
Good.
Okay, we're back for the second half of this training, and it's going to be talking about contested protective orders. And so I asked Jess and Jessica to come back and talk to us about their experiences with their clients, with the participants about that. So my first question again is kind of a general one, Jessica, and then Jess. How do your clients, the participants, feel when they're going into these hearings? Are they obviously probably a little scared?
Absolutely. I think there's a wave of emotions. They could be feeling sad, scared, angry all at once. I think there's this extreme feeling of overwhelmingness that individuals have shared with us. Like they're being put in a situation where they have to be in the same space as this person that they're saying is harming them. A very close space, mind you, sitting only a few feet away. And they're being asked to tell the court, what this person has done to them. And that can be very intimidating, very scary. They might have feelings of, am I going to be able to say everything? Is the court going to understand what I'm saying? Are they going to see the urgentness, or are they going to dismiss this? Are they going to minimize this? Those may not be the words that they're thinking, but the overall feeling of, is this person in power, going to understand what I'm feeling, what I'm going through? Our life is essentially in their hands. So I think that's some of the emotions. I've had individuals express anger. Is this just another way of this person, controlling the situation, bringing me to court? They know what they've done, and yet they're contesting this order, making me come before them, making me talk openly about everything. Are they going to ask questions that, make me look bad? I think overall there's just so many unknown factors about what is expected in these hearings. So that person might be feeling so many different emotions all at once.
Yeah. Jess, how about you?
Yeah, our students are scared. They're scared. There's this disadvantage where they can't afford legal support most of the time. There's a great portion of our students who maybe their parents could help if they knew, but telling their parents isn't safe. And so that financial aspect and the disproportionate when when the defendant has a lawyer and they're representing themselves can be so it's insurmountable, the amount of fear that they have. I also think back to some recent cases. We get a lot of folks who they seek an order of protection for an instance of sexual violence, and then they hear that their perpetrator's gonna contest it, they contest it, and then after they're gonna contest it, they're gonna sue them for defamation. And so, we know within the legal world that's probably not gonna go anywhere, but it's so terrifying that they speak out and then they're being threatened for just sharing what happened to them. I think another thing is that a lot of our sexual violence cases, it happened behind a closed door. So it's really scary. Like, what evidence do we have? How can I prove it? And so we're trying to reaffirm, like, you sharing what happened, that is part of the evidence and that's considered. And then along with that, we have folks who's the defendant contests the orders at certain times. So we've had a situation where the defendant contested it so that the hearing would be during finals week. Just another form of abuse. And those students ended up not going to the contested hearing, allowing the orders to be dropped because seeing their perpetrator was hard enough. Seeing them during finals week when they need to really focus and their grades depend on it, it felt less important to them. And then we also have students who are going through the investigative process with law enforcement, and so their perpetrators are contesting these hearings to get more information. And so it's a balance of how do I provide enough evidence for my case, and how do I not ruin my legal case that I have with law enforcement?
Yeah, that's a lot. That, like I said, I feel like in any of these cases, there's so much that the judges don't see, and we have like this little piece that we're supposed to make decisions on. Um, how did they, have you gotten any feedback, hopefully good, some, so, on judges explaining the process and how they run the hearings? Do you feel like that judges do a good job at that, hopefully most of the time, or Jessica? And I mean, I'm not saying, pick out a judge, but I mean,
No, of course.
what if the more you tell us about the things that we aren't doing well, I think the more it'll help us understand like we tend to get lost in our legal world kind of. So,
Oh, absolutely. In my experience, most judges do at the beginning of a contested hearing give like a little speech, kind of a expectation of how this hearing will go. I think it's very helpful when they do that, when they say, okay, we're gonna start with you, you're gonna share your side of things and why you got this order, and then, we'll move over here, and then they'll share their side. And just being able to explain that process, I think not only like the survivors or everyone coming into these hearings has a lot of different things going on in their head, and so by the judge being able to like start and kind of like set the scene, I think helps recenter everyone. But most judges have been very good with explaining that. I think the important piece is to then follow what they just said and be consistent with what they just stated. If they say we're going to start here and go here, then follow through with that. That makes all the difference because then the people know, okay, this is my time. This is my moment to present this. They've laid it out for me, so they can kind of prioritize what information they're giving in that moment.
right. Jess, what have you seen?
Yeah, our students have had a lot of positive experiences with judges. Again, this is totally new to them. They don't understand this world at all. And when they're representing themselves and then the defendant is represented by an attorney, there are times where the attorneys can be really unkind to the victims. And this goes beyond questioning, like being like, this is not an opening statement, Your Honor. I object to this. They don't know what they're doing. And when the student's just trying to represent themselves as best as they can. So judges giving leeway and understanding that for us, we're often working with 18 to 24-year-olds, really young, like are not going to understand what to do and are just doing their best and kind of making sure that neutrally everyone is getting a fair treatment can be helpful. I also find something that's really validating for our victims is when judges share, like when they're making their decision. Um, I find that the plaintiff is a very credible witness that can feel really helpful to them.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear. Anything else you think that judges should know, not, that they should do, but that they should know about the people that come in front of them? Jessica, you have anything?
Yeah, I think we had mentioned before that like not everyone in there is going to have an attorney. A lot of people are representing themselves. They're not lawyers. They don't have legal jargon. And so when judges keep that in mind, being able to simplify terms, clarify and explain things, I think it's important to ask questions. The survivors coming into the courtroom are anxious, and so they might throw out some information without a lot of details. When a judge takes the time and say, "Okay, you stated this. Can you tell me what you mean by that? Can you clarify that?" Rather than just saying anything else, anything else. Those open-ended questions, it helps, spark like, oh, okay, this they're asking for more. I need to be able to give more. It just gives them that chance to rethink about things. I think it's important for judges to be aware of like the tension in the space. You know, it's mentioned before, you're in the same space as the party you're saying has caused you harm. So when judges take it upon themselves to say, you know, would you like a security escort out? Would you like one party to stay behind? I think it helps validate, you know, that that person is feeling some fear, and it gives them that little piece of safety. Um, and then one of the things that I've seen judges do, not all of them, but I think it's great when they've noticed that there was an anxious plaintiff, say, typically in courtrooms, they like the plaintiff to go to like the witness stand when they're testifying. We've been able to ask, you know, can this person stay at the table with their support system, with their advocate, with their lawyer, so they can continue to get this support while they're testifying. And a lot of judges have been very amendable with that, and I think that makes a big difference.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, I do just tell people don't look, keep looking at me, right? I think that sometimes just telling the defendant to stop looking at the plaintiff because that look can mean a lot of different things to that
Absolutely.
person than it could be just to regular people. So, Jess, any final words from you?
Again, our students are so scared, and so going up to the witness stand all by themselves or sitting at the desk by themselves feels incredibly daunting, and having their advocate with them as a silent support can make the difference between them moving forward with the contested hearing and just giving it up.
So great, yes, and I'm glad, and I think that everybody knows by now that advocates are allowed to sit with plaintiffs, and so we'll certainly be talking about that today. But thank you guys, I really appreciate your time. I think that it's really useful for us to remember that these are people that are scared, and I mean even and not just the plaintiffs. I think everybody, you know, if we don't treat this like we've got a bunch of lawyers in here, but regular people who may not know all of our rules and our procedures. And I think that makes it a better place. So thank you so much for your time, you guys.
Thank you, Judge.